And that's Joseph, and today we're here to talk about Greyhound, which will have its world premiere streaming on Apple TV+. Directed by Aaron Schneider. This is his sophomore film, technically, and was written by Tom Hanks.
Based on a book.
It's based on a 1955 novel by C.S. Forester, who's actually a very notable author. I believe we have the book, but I never read it, Captain Horatio Hornblower. He's known for that. He's also known for writing The African Queen.
Okay.
It's a very notable film. Humphrey Bogart won his Oscar for that. Excellent film. This is his 1955 novel, The Good Shepherd. It's actually the third screenplay Tom Hanks has written, but the only one of his screenplays that he hasn't directed as well.
What are the other two?
That Thing You Do in 96, and Larry Crown in 2011, which I never saw that film, but I would always make fun of the poster because it's like Julia Roberts in the back of a motorcycle that Tom Hanks is driving, and
I do recall
yeah,
that. Yes.
I remember making jokes about her like eating his head. What?
This film is based on
a novel.
Actual events.
Actually, it's fictitious.
Oh, it is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
That changes my opinion a little bit.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it's based on this.
Although now I'm divulging how ignorant I am because I thought it was based on that.
I mean, it's
Well, there was a war.
Yep, there was
Nazis.
World War II
Yes.
and awful Nazis. So yeah, not far off, but yes, the basis for this is a fictitious novel. I think it's important to note that Aaron Schneider, the director, won an Oscar for his 2003 live short, Two Soldiers, and his feature debut was Get Low in 2009 with Robert Duvall and Bill Murray.
Okay.
It's about time for me to get low.
Explain the story of this film.
Tom Hanks plays Ernie Krause. He's a first-time U.S. Navy captain who is charged in 1942 with commanding a convoy of 37 ships, supply ships, to go from to make it to Britain. And along the way, they are assailed by a Nazi U-boat, the Grey Wolf, and who takes down several of their ships, and they're always nipping at Tom Hanks' heels, basically.
Yeah, so it is important that it's his first time out as commander.
Yeah, because he messes something up a bit at first that shakes his crew's confidence in him.
And he enters like water or like a region that's kind of like unmanned, right? Like aren't they entering a zone that's kind of like an unfriendly zone?
Yeah, and that's why they're calling for the air support.
Okay. Anyway, I like this film.
Mm-hmm.
I commented that I thought it was like a film for everyone.
Yeah,
because it has action. It's like mature enough that I think anyone could enjoy this. It's action packed. It looks really good.
It does, and I think the bummer here is that this would have played better on a big screen. I think.
To no fault of the film, but I definitely think there are many sequences that would have been, because we watched it on my MacBook, so
I mean,
I definitely would have preferred to watch it on the big screen because it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's very CGI heavy, but it looks good. Soundtrack is great. It just, and I think Mr. Hanks himself has bemoaned the fact that this is where it's premiering. And also, you have to have a subscription to Apple TV Plus to see it, which I think is going to diminish the audience that would otherwise see this if you could pay for it on digital or demand. Sure.
But the story starts out with him, he's like dating Elisabeth Shue.
It starts out in San Francisco, 1941, and in December he's courting Elisabeth Shue.
He asks her to marry him, and she says not until like the war's over and let's come back.
Yeah, basically. And then
so that's his. I mean, it's kind of cheesy. Like that's his motive.
She has very little to do. I'm sure she had a pleasurable one day of shooting. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes off. Immediately they are attacked.
Yeah, it's set over a period of 48 hours, and basically there really is no room to breathe. It's just one thing after another.
Which worked really well for me.
Yeah, it does.
Because the film's it's not even 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So it clips along. It's action-packed. But in a meaning, like it feels more meaningful than just like things exploding and.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Because the historical value, even though it's based on, it's a fictional story, but I think the historical value of it lends a lot to like the.
Sure.
Because I got emotional several times just thinking about like, because there are a lot of young men on the boat.
Yeah.
And just anyone who goes off to war and.
I was going to say, I think what Tom Hanks does with the script works really well. There is a lot of subtitles feeding us information that seems kind of too much or maybe even unnecessary at the beginning, rather than weighing us down with exposition, which is great. But he does find a way to find the little bits of nuance, emotional nuance. Like even Rob Morgan plays Cleveland, the black man on board that's cooking his meals, and who dies, and even how he reacts to his death and his absence. It's very fast, very fleeting. There's not a lot of time to mourn, but
Sure.
it's there.
Well, let's finish the story. So they go out. They're intercepted by a Nazi sub.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to defend themselves against one, but there's another one following them with some really ominous, because they intercept like their radio frequency, and these Nazis are sending a message through the like audio of his ship saying like, we're going to get you, we're not going to stop until all of your men are dead at the bottom of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
That was very creepy. But Hanks as commander, like he does a good job of like steering his crew to victory. It culminates with the second submarine chasing them, and then there's a Canadian vessel called the Dickey,
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to like fend off the submarine. They're not very successful, but Tom Hanks' ship, what's its name? I don't remember. The ship Tom Hanks' character is commanding is able to successfully destroy the final submarine, or fend it off until air support comes and then distinguishes it fully. And then Tom Hanks is able to kind of breathe, and then he goes out onto the deck of the ship and sees the Canadian ship and all the soldiers on board, Navy men, whatever, waving at him, saying thank you. We overhear like the British ships like telling them thank you, great job. Mm-hmm. Or no, they send like a light signal and shoot off like fireworks. Mm-hmm. I was emotional.
Sure, yeah.
It's a feel-good movie. It's very predictable.
It is.
Then he goes back to Elisabeth Shue, or like he sees her. And,
of course.
Yeah, the end.
Ms. Shue. Mm-hmm.
So that's the end.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you like about the film most?
I like that it is very fast paced. I like the soundtrack. It is compelling. It was not what I was expecting, which was kind of another dry World War II film. I know a lot of people think Dunkirk is a masterpiece, and visually it is. Christopher Nolan's 2017 film, I believe, and much longer and with a lot more frills and all the visual guns and whistles you could want. But this is very pared down. It's very fast paced, but you get into it. And even considering Tom Hanks, who isn't the most exciting person to me, and you even made a comment while we were watching it, like it's hard to imagine anything terrible befalling them because Tom Hanks is in charge. Like that, he does have that air of like everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, which I like.
Sure.
I agree with you. I really like Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. He made me feel good and safe in the film because I was very uncomfortable with what was happening and the imminent danger. But just knowing that he was at the helm made me feel safe.
Like we're gonna make it through.
What else worked well for you?
Like I said, visually, the soundtrack, I liked all those
So
things.
what didn't work for you?
There's an awful lot of notable supporting players here. Almost all men, besides Ms. Shue. Rob Morgan does stand out to me. Lee Norris, who I haven't seen since Boy Meets World, playing Mankiss, it pops up. Stephen Graham, British character actor that's I quite like. Karl Glusman, who is in Gaspar Noé's Love. He is the sonar technician that.
Okay.
But nobody really is allowed to develop anything, and that's probably a facet of how this tale is being told. There's really no time.
My biggest gripe, I think, is some of the dialogue's a little crunchy. When Hank's character first gets on screen, I had to write it down because I thought it was funny. There's like a little tussle between two of the Navy men, and he's sitting there saying like, "I will not tolerate fisticuffs on my ship," Restore the relationships you have damaged and fill me with peace.
I
thought that there are several lines where he sounds very, like he was...
archaic.
Yeah, like maybe he researched... I'm sure the book it's based on uses dialogue that was used back then, but it sounded a little too on the nose. I don't know. Maybe that's stupid because that's how people spoke back then, but it sounded awkward coming from him.
It did, yeah. There were a couple things. Some of it sounded crunchy, or a little cornbally, especially when the transmissions with the Canadians or the British.
When the Canadians and the British captains contact him, it's like a caricature of what we think Canadians sound like and the British sound like chip chip cheerio and like. I don't know. Maybe that's what they sound like, but I thought it was a little corny.
Well, Tom Hanks was trying to keep. Apparently, the character in the novel is also a Christian man, but it's presented in such a way that is so starchy to me that I couldn't help but think of Edward Woodward in The Wicker Man, as in the 40-something virgin that they lure to the island to sacrifice because he's so rigid and conservative. Yeah.
What would you give this film?
I would give this film... Oh, and also I think it's important to note, Tom Hanks, this is the first time he's manned a ship. Remember Captain Phillips?
Yeah.
Okay. I think 3 out of 5 is fair.
I agree, 3 out of 5. Anything else?
I suppose we... Oh, no, I was going to say... Talking about other film references, it's not... Because I don't think you've watched a lot of World War II boat films. It made me also think of this old David Lean film from 1942 that was written by Noel Coward, In Which We Serve. It has that underlying dryness to it, I think. Or there's an old John Wayne film, In Harm's Way, that came to mind, or even Das Boot, the German saga, Wolfgang Petersen. No. Okay. Sorry. I mean, I thought it was worth bringing up.
Okay. Done.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.